Greetings, everyone. Keith here. Hoping everyone's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. I want to get on tonight and talk about paying tribute. Everybody's got these nice jobs, and they think they're doing their part for society. And so they're making contributions. Contribution. Contribute. With tribute. So if you're paying contribution, who is it you are paying contribution to? First, let's think about that. Because I know many of you hate paying contribution to the state, yet 98% of the population pays taxes voluntarily. So it's your own damn fault. So let's get beyond that and figure out what we can do about it. When we change our minds, what do? Well, we've got to you got to supplicate the fact that you made errors yourself. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you got to get on your knees and beg, because that's not what it's about. But you do have to make a request. You do have to bring in another body to make the correction that you're looking for, because it's the correction in their record. So you do have to request them to help you. In doing so, they operate on that 18 U.S.C. 8, obligations and other securities of the United States. And if we look at that, it says includes all bonds. So it starts out with bonds, all bonds, and then goes on to tell about other things. And it talks about certificates, U.S. notes, Treasury notes, Federal Reserve notes, blah, blah, blah. Other representatives of value. Stamps and other representatives of value. It doesn't say United States stamps. It says stamps and other representatives of value. So what we're going to look here today is making that request, but we're going to place other representatives of value. Now this is a special form of request for payment of United States, take out, get rid of savings and retirements, and read behind around that, United States securities. Knowing that savings and retirement are merely just a representative of the value. Okay? And then it says where use of a detached request is authorized. The authorized request that is detached is authored by the one authorizing it, and we are making a request of somebody else under a representative of value stated as a United States security. Okay? So this is a form, and I wouldn't even use this form. You could use the form as a notation that these are the instructions, and rather than using the form, because we don't want to enter in to the financial system, we'll still give the detached request, not subject to authorization on your side through Office of Management and Budget, because the record we're correcting is through the office is noted as through the Office of Management and Budget, Bureau of Fiscal Services. And notice, people, I want you to pay attention. We are talking about a bureau, not an agency, not a branch, a bureau, in relations to the International Bureau, the Director General of the International Bureau, which is headed through the Universal Postal Union. And they have the Bureau of Fiscal Services and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Those investigations are many times held against the people, as that's who they invest. They want to place you in vestige under the vest of their armor. They want to show that you have given up the full armor of God. But rather than do so, I ask that they inspect their record. Inspect their record. This is Office of Inspector General. In relations to Director General, Inspector General. Okay, through all these different branches and agencies. So the Federal Bureau of Investigation is followed up again through the Bureau of Vital Statistics that supports the State Bureau of Investigations. Okay, it's a statistical record, and that's all it is, and it's entered in a commercial venue through the Office of Management and Budget, which is authorized to do so by the Department of Defense through the original issue of the certificate of live birth at the hospital where Mom was the informant. And that was the creation of a United States security. The original issue. As we go on, we find out, this is why I tell people to look up, do the research in etymology and everything, and you'll find out all the different synonyms and antonyms. You'll find out the polar opposites and the polar attractives. And in here we see that payment, and then it says redemption in parentheses, which would be the same thing as payment slash redemption without the parentheses. Okay? So it's telling us it's just a substitution, and we're going to find out what that means by right here. It's got payment, high line, blue line, underlined. And it says, they tell you themselves, payment means redemption. So I want to take a break real quick in regards to people that call other people sovereign citizens, and say that one of the reasons that strikes them is that they present redemption processes. If they really knew what was going on, they wouldn't say such idiotic things, because when you say that somebody's a sovereign citizen because they present redemption processes, you can nix the redemption and place payment in there as a synonym and prove that they babble. I am, in fact, presenting a payment offer. I am in a negotiations. I am offering payment. Leviticus 25, verses 23 and 24. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. In all the lands of your possession ye shall grant a redemption. In that, if we really seriously think about it, you cannot pay taxes. You tax payments. You cannot pay taxes because you have to tax payments. Now, what is a redemption? It's a payment, but it's granted. And it's a negotiation about the payment. It's evaluation. Evaluation. Negotiations, we have to evaluate the data elements. So let's do some evaluating, folks. As we go on, and this is payment redemption, wherein we show the payment definition there. And you guys can read this. Again, I give all the links so you guys can go on and do your own research and come back with follow-up information. You can check out all these different CFR parts and everything, all the other definitions. But we're going to go to this one right here. Surrendered. Surrender. To render something is to make something. I rendered it in the forge. I rendered it in a fiberglass mold. I rendered it in a plaster mold. Render is make. You make the Father. Did you make the Father, or did the Father make you? Definition. Surrender means the actual receipt of a bond with an appropriate request for payment or reissue by either a Federal Reserve Bank or branch, the Bureau of the Fiscal Service, or if a paying agent meaning somebody on their side, not you as the payor, but the paying agent, is authorized to handle the transaction. So again, as I said, you are the one authorizing, and in that authorizing, you authorize the paying agent to handle the transaction. The actual receipt of the bond and the request for payment by the paying agent. The actual receipt of the bond and the request for payment by the paying agent. So, when we get the birth certificate, or we want to order the birth certificate, I want to make it very clear the process in a redemption through the birth certificate, or even the Department of Defense DD 214. They're both the same kind of instrumentality. It's a Department of Defense original issue type of bond. So when we use that birth registration, the birth registration itself is a process. And if you're going to do that process properly, when you make a request from the state for the birth certificate, in that request, because that's the only place you make that request, is the Secretary of State at the Bureau of Vital Statistics. But in that request for the birth certificate from the state, you have to also request the certificate of live birth from the county. You want a copy of both. The certificate of live birth from the county and the birth certificate from the state. And it's one fee for both. And then each of them, the state will send you a copy of the birth certificate, and they will send your request on to the county, so the county will get that request for payment receipt, and they will send you the certificate of live birth. Now you are in receipt of both the county and the state forms, and they have made payment. And you even get a receipt for it And you're the one that gave them the money. But that bond doesn't have a face value. It doesn't have any value until it's negotiated. Tells us here how to do that. Hold on, guys. I got to do a reload. So, I've also been speaking about the expenses incidental to transfer of title, and there's 3 places. All the licenses that you put out as an adult after you turned 18, you went and got that job and application, you got a job, and they told you need a driver's license so you can plow for us in the wintertime and mow for us in the springtime. So you got to have a driver's license. So you went and got a driver's license. That's a business license. So any kind of business license you got to expenses incidental to transfer title to the agency. This is Title 49. And that's Title 49 is transportation code because commerce means, and this is defined in the transportation title, says commerce means traffic, transportation, or trade. So you filed the SS5. Mom got the birth registration and everything taken care of for you. That's done. You filed the SS5. Then upon graduating, you got a diploma. You signed up. You registered to vote. You signed the SS5 application, take upon retirement benefits, and then you got a driver's license and a job. Okay. So you transfer all those titles and everything back to the agency, and the agency is that title. That one is 49 CFR, and you transfer all back to the agency. The agency is the state, Secretary of State or Social Security Administration. So you transfer all those titles back to the Social Security Administration because that's where they all derived from. They all came from that. So you transfer all titles back to the agency. You close that account with, and again, you got to make that request on a separate form to each and every one of those. You're going to return it to the agency. Once all those requests are done, now you send a request to the agency. Hey, I made all the requests. These should all be returned back to you. Now that they've all been returned back to you, the request is to close the account, and expenses are incidental to transfer of title to the United States. We want all those securities at the state's account transferred to the United States for full settlement and closure. So now once we get that done, we send that request to the United States for them to settle all accounts for complete closure, to make all parties whole and clean all accounts, to establish the remainder credits for the remainder man, and those credits under a new title, now that everything's been merged and consolidated and liquidated. This is a bankruptcy, folks. Now we're going to turn around and transfer all of those values that have now been consolidated as credits. Well, as you're working throughout your life, those employment, and you make all those contributions and everything, the Social Security and the FICA, everything that goes in there to the Social Security Administration is established as quarterly credits. It's not established as money or cash or financial instruments or documentation. It's credits. And they operate on the full faith and credit, not full faith in checks and full faith in promissory notes and drafts and bills and orders. Full faith and credit. Okay? So now that we've got that all established, the United States gets all that settled, the credit is now transferred under title, the merger and acquisition under a new title. Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union is a private association that now wants to establish a master trust account with the postal system through Postal One, and that's where those credits are going to be transferred for private estate matters, whether they be for public use or not. That's the process, as far as I see in transferring the titles. But to place all of that into that bond, you still have to put a value in there, because none of it's going to be established as value until you can establish the valuation of all your lifetime's work into credits. So, like I said, this tells you about the Series A, B, C, D, F bonds. And when we're talking about these bonds, I believe we're talking about Series A bonds as original issue discount bonds. The original issue of the Department of Defense, and there must be a discount. You cannot count me in your rolls of the military. You must discount everything. Okay. Redemption value of securities. Securities. Security means a United States savings bond of Series A, B, C, D, E, EE, or I, and or a United States savings note, Freedom Share. That's a share they used to sell back between 1967 and 1970, I believe. Anyway, security means a United States savings bond of Series A, B, C, D. So it is a savings bond. Okay? Birth certificate is a savings bond. And again, just like payment, said it was a redemption, says redemption and payment are used interchangeably for payment of a security, in accordance with the terms of its offering and governing regulations, including redemption exchange. Okay? A little bit more explanation on the payment thing, all right? Redemption and payment are used interchangeably. Redemption hyphen exchange as opposed to interchange. An exchange is external, and interchange is internal. So consequently, the record reflects everything has been interchanged and there has been no exchanges. The redemption value of each savings security is determined by the terms of its offering and the length of time it has been outstanding. The length of time it has been outstanding. The Bureau of the Fiscal Service determines redemption value for Series A through E bonds, eligible Series EE and I bonds, and savings notes that should be used in redeeming savings securities. The Bureau of Fiscal Service determines redemption value. You authorize them to determine the value that you place on it. Otherwise, there's no value. So you have to give them a value to determine. Otherwise, their determination is going to be zero. Watch and learn, people. Payment or redemption during lifetime of owner. And it goes and it says, at age 59 and a half or thereafter, this is null and void for the intent purposes of our redemption is, like I said, the original issue it requires to be discounted immediately. You can no longer consider me to be part of your roll count in the military because it causes me harm and damage. The record reflects continuous and repeated exposure to said harm and damage. 93 cases. A retirement plan bond will be redeemable at its current redemption value upon the request of the registered owner. That's, again, the authorization. Nobody else can do so. Only you can. Or person recognized as entitled to act on behalf of the owner. The Bureau of Fiscal Services cannot act on behalf if no one has given them a request to do so. You have to do this. You have to make that request. The owner's age will be determined from the date of birth shown on the face of the bond. The date of birth is shown on the face of the bond, but there's no value stated on the face of the bond. Provided, however, that the Secretary of the Treasury reserves the right in any case or class of cases to require proof in form of a duly certified copy of his birth certificate. Provided, however, that the Secretary of the Treasury reserves the right in any case or class of cases to require proof. If there is no birth certificate validating a payment, then they have no face value. It is only a presumption, and the Secretary of the Treasury presumed it and didn't require proof. So they just let it go by on whatever value they wanted to place on it. That the owner has attained the age of 59 and a half years. So again, we're not using it for the intent and purpose of proving age. We're using it as intent and purpose that it shouldn't have been entered into transportation. Commerce. It should not have been entered into commerce. Okay? And it says, if such evidence is unavailable, one of the following documents may be furnished in lieu thereof. The first one is a church record of birth or baptism. Wrong verbiage here. It should be church records of nativity or baptism, hospital birth record or certificate, physician's or midwife's birth record, certification of Bible or other family record. Now, a certification is a document handwritten by oneself, signed in wet ink, affirming the facts therein. And it says here that it's a certification of Bible or other family record, telling us again that we don't have to bring that Bible or other family record forward. All that needs to be placed on the record is the certification. You can bring other witnesses. Come by 2 or 3 witnesses. So you merely put 2 certifications down, and you have your 2 witnesses, and you need no other record. Not one single man can rebut it, and the only way one can operate in recourse is by having 2 or more. Period. Operation of law, folks. As we go on, requests for payment by owner when redemption of any retirement plan bond. The birth certificate is given to you by the Secretary of State, and they require your Social Security number to obtain it. It is a security instrument in the form of a bond, and that bond and Social Security account, the Social Security number is the assignment of a number, a Social Security number to a newborn child, and that Social Security administrator assisted the Department of Defense to assign that number. It was the Department of Defense that assigned the number, and the state agency is allowing its use. Is desired by the registered owner under paragraph A, the section we just read of this section, it should be presented with a request for payment on the back of the bond, signed and duly certified. So you take the bond and you can either flip it over and you can write it in real short on the back, or if it takes up too much room, like they tell you in their forms, if there's not enough space, finish it on another piece of paper and attach. So you can put the face value on the face of the bond, flip it over, put your negotiation on there, which are the facts, the supplemental facts to the evidence in the record that prove what is true to be relevant and superior to any other valuation. However you want to word it, make sure you word it concisely so that the other party knows exactly what you're talking about and can't be misinterpreted. And this is why I would strongly recommend getting down to a promissory note, international bill of exchange, checks, United States Postal Service money orders. They're all the same basic form. So find out the information on the front, on the face of the bond, give it its face value, flip it over, and complete it on the back so it fills up that time void. Remember Einstein talking about taking space and folding it over, and it happens instantaneously? That's time travel. That's what you're going to do. You're going to complete the transaction instantly. You're going to time travel, and you're going to take that 59-and-a-half-year-old person, and he's going to go back to a zero before babbling idiot, and he's never going to be hurt again. That's what a bankruptcy is. It closes down and never going to be hurt again. Think about it. A bankruptcy is a resurrection of the person under a new name. You don't take and bankrupt Apple, for say, and then reform under Apple. It doesn't happen. So let's finish up real quick. So you have to make your request, and it has to be to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch, or to the Bureau of Fiscal Service Securities Transaction Branch. And since they're the ones that are supposedly making these determinations, the Bureau of Fiscal Services with the Bureau of Vital Statistics and the State Bureau of Investigations are relevant to the Federal Bureau of Investigations and the Director General of the International Bureau, whereas all of the valuations come through stamps and other representatives of value, Washington, D.C. 20226, or payment is Bureau of Fiscal Services, Division of Transactions and Rulings, Parkersburg, West Virginia, 26101. It even tells you about partial redemption. You can do a partial redemption. You don't have to redeem every security. You can get a birth certificate and redeem just the bond. You don't have to redeem the whole entire retirement plan bond. Okay? In any case in which a legal representative has not been appointed for the estate of a registered owner who has attained the age of 59 and a half years who has become disabled. A person seeking payment of a bond on the owner's behalf should furnish a complete statement of the circumstances to the Bureau of Fiscal Service Division of Transactions and Rulings, Parkersburg, West Virginia. That's the one we send to, and that's what we do. A complete statement, completing the transaction as I said. So let's continue on. Delivery. You know, when Mom was in the delivery room and she was under that spell of illness, wherein the hospital furnished her inpatient hospital services, and she volunteered data elements, delivery of checks and warrants to addresses outside the United States, its territories, and possessions. Guess what? A hospital is a port of entry, and that document was entered immediate transportation entry delivered outside port of limits. When merchandise covered by an immediate transportation entry, that document is merchanted. It is a merchant document. And when it was merchandise covered by an immediate transportation entry, has been authorized by port director to be delivered to a place outside a port of entry as provided for in 18.11 of this chapter. The provisions of 151.7 must be complied with to the same extent as if the merchandise had been delivered to the port of entry and then authorized to be examined elsewhere than at the public stores, wharf, or other place under the control of Customs and Border Protection. Interesting, huh? This is where all of your policing authority comes from. Your police are actually regulated by the Coast Guard. Your inland police are regulated by the Coast Guard. Navy Coast Guard. The Navy Marines established inland marine installations called post offices, and the Coast Guard establishes inland coast offices known as police installations. Treasury bonds versus Treasury notes versus Treasury bills. The federal government offers fixed income securities. If it's fixed, then why the fuck is everyone so broke? Excuse my language. I apologize. To consumers and investors to fund its operations. Fixed income securities to consumers and investors to fund its operations, including Treasury bonds, Treasury notes, and Treasury bills. Treasuries are debt instruments. They are not credit instruments. They are not money instruments. They are not cash instruments. They are debt instruments. They are instrumentalizing debt in which investors are lending the U.S. government the purchase amount of the bond. In return, investors are paid interest or a rate of return. When the bond matures, or maturity date, day and time executed. Day and time executed. The only document that has a day and time of its execution is the certificate of live birth. The birth certificate does not have a time. Okay? It's one of the importance about having this knowledge, so you realize a date investors are paid the face value of the bond. Again, that bond professes a date when there is no time, and then it professes that it's a bond, and investors are paid the face value when that bond originally starts with no value. There's no value on that bond yet. It's a fixed income. It's in their logs. It's in their schedule. Okay? Face value. Face value is a financial term used to describe the nominal or dollar value of a security. Nominal. It is not numinal. It is nominal. Nom de guerre. Name. The one that names the value. Nominal value of a security, often referred to as face or par value. Hey, you golfers out there, did you make the par today? Did you get the average value? Or do you have a face value that says you're much more handsome than the next guy? Is nominally, or excuse me, let's finish this up. Nominal value of a security, often referred to as face or par value, is its redemption price and is normally stated on the front of that security. The front being the face. Like I said, don't turn that sucker over and put all your shit on the back and then think you put a face value on there, because you didn't. All you gurus out there telling people how to do this, not paying attention. Putting a face value on the bond is not defacing it. It is putting a face to it. You have to learn how to put things in order. With respect to bonds and stocks, it is the stated value, not the scheduled value, which is a fixed value. It is a stated value that is different than the other values regulated. Stated value of an issued security. When the state issues that bond, there's no value on it. You state the value. Now, what state is it in? As opposed to its market value, its merchandised value. In economics, nominal values refer to the unadjusted rate or current price, now time price, and not some past or future price. Without taking inflation or other factors into account, as opposed to real values, where adjustments are made for general price level changes over time. How's that for your exchange? See, I exited to prove the change. Changes over time. The face value over the time it's been in market value is superior. It is better than par value. Let's go back. Treasury bonds. This is back to the Treasury bonds versus Treasury notes and Treasury bills. And we went with face value, and then from face value we went to nominal. Now we're back to Treasury bonds, bills, and notes, and it says Treasury bonds, notes, and bills have different maturity dates and can pay interest in different ways. However, all treasuries have zero risk default, meaning they are guaranteed by full faith and credit of the United States government. I'd like to point out they are actually guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the United States government, while Federal Reserve notes are guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the United States government and Federal Reserve. And since United States Treasury bonds, notes, and bills are under United States government, I want to point out in relations to federal government, all federal government branches and agencies are established by a foreign bank. That foreign bank is the International Bank of Settlements. And they help the nations conduct their affairs through the International Monetary Fund. And this nation, known as the United States of America, operates in a contract with the Federal Reserve. And therefore they are under the full faith and credit of the Federal Reserve and the United States. While one as I refer to Jeremiah 1 verse 5 in the King James Version of the Bible, a prophet unto the nations, being able to make statements of such. Have full faith and credit of the International Bank of Settlements by establishing the settlement of the credit issue. So, however, the safety offered by treasuries comes with a lower return on investment than their alternative riskier counterparts known as corporate bonds. A corporate bond is a type of debt security. In other words, it is securing debt that is issued by a firm and sold to investors. Issued by a firm and sold to investors. I've pointed out the financial index that I got from the local courthouse in regards to all 93 cases. In this last case, I handed in a birth certificate. I didn't do anything with it. I didn't know what to do with it back then. But I did put it in evidence. So it sits there in evidence. So in the meantime, all 93 cases on this financial index, and it starts out with last/firm. And so over my research, I found out that they took the birth registration, Social Security, identification through driver's license or state identification, and job employment and all that, and created all these different persons to operate at all these different levels. And what they are all doing is operating as a firm issuing securitized debt instruments or debt securities that are then sold to investors. That's all they care about. They don't care about the consequences you suffer on the other end. They have the ability to sell the debt security to investors. And it's a valid debt security. Learn how to stop the debt security. Because every time you sign a document in their manner without correcting it and putting the face value on it, you're screwing yourself, because everything they do, that receipt, that's a security instrument. Like I said, when they sent me that birth certificate and the certificate of live birth, they sent receipts. That's the debt security. The receipt is the debt security. Okay? The certificate is the debt instrument. The certificate of live birth is the debt origination. The original document, the instrumentality, and then the security. The security, the debt security, is the signature. So think about this stuff, people, and realize what you're doing. If you don't know how this stuff operates and how to secure it and moor it on dry dock, so it's not floating out there in the seas of commerce, getting all injured and bumped up every time it gets sold. See, it's just like the old gold coins. Every time that gold coin passes from this hand to the next hand, somewhere in a dark corner, that guy's going like this, and he's biting off a little niblet, little teeny niblet. So as it passes along, it's getting dense, and each time it gets sold to the next guy, the guy looks at it, he knows there's something wrong with it. God damn it, somebody took a. But it's probably going to be, he doesn't want to take the chance of turning around and getting a worse coin that had even more chewed off. So he keeps it. In the meantime, in order to get it back, he takes a chunk himself. Think about what you're doing, folks. It's already been paid for. I fear not, for I have been redeemed. He has called me by name. The nominal value is the face value. And I'm telling you now, you better beware, because it's the Spirit of God that moves upon the face of the water. And just like Jesus, and it is affirmed, ye shall do greater things than I. So in the equality of Jesus, I do walk on water. I hope you guys comprehend this and get to learning how to do this stuff. It's all in the terms and conditions and how you put the face value to everything. Owe no man anything but to love one another, for when one has loved their neighbor, they have fulfilled the law. Remember, folks, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. Have a great night. And let's have some face-to-face value time. Pass it on. I love y'all. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Walking on water. Have a good day.